What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be taking a look over here at the Bitcoin price chart along with the XRP price chart as we get ready to start a new week after having the Russell 2000 reach back to the 702 retrace and closing out last week with new highs for the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, and the Dow Jones mere ticks away from the all-time high. Yet, we still just continue to traverse along, waiting for some type of catalyst or trigger or something to be able to bust Bitcoin out of here and get this market on the move. And for me, essentially just following this blueprint over here for a fifth wave and get this Bitcoin dominance to finally go kerplunk after reaching back to the last retracement level. So heading into this week, there's not a lot to look at in here in regards to any type of changes that happened throughout the weekend. The big beautiful bill did get approved by the House, signed by the president. Still no major triggering event coming from that catalyst. So heading into this week, of course, still just focusing on the completion of our range. I'll zoom in here to see if we can reach that moment to get our way out of here. Now, of course, for the last several months, we spent a lot of time talking about this type of behavior. There we ricochet our way back up to the top, and then eventually you put in an ABC in order to get these kind of breakouts to actually end up happening in here. We know there's a lot of things that have to also happen at the same time regarding macro, right? We usually have to have the Russell 2000 busting out at the exact same time. We usually have to have gold falling at the same time. We've gone through that many times in the past, and you can of course see that here too. Once gold had topped in its run, right, pretty much running through the whole Bitcoin bear market, once the top was put in, that's where everything really ramped up until that bottom was already in for gold, and then that really stalled everything out. But there's interesting things to look at here in regards to gold as well, is that, well, it looks like we could be on the verge of it, still sitting there. Whether or not it's going to go try to poke up like that one last poke that we saw like for XRP back in January, but still it was the peak of the entire market, or if it's going to go ahead and start its actual pull down to happen in here. I think if that actually started, we would see crypto already going. But I'm actually here for the gold chart for a different reason as well, is to see that you have the exact same behavior here on gold as like we're talking about on all of these things over here for Bitcoin, where we pull back up, you pull the ABC in here. You can see that even has happened here in gold, and that's how we end up getting to where we are today. And is this exact type of behavior, right? There's a big crash that comes in here. Price pulls back up to the top. It sets a new high. Then it goes in to an A, B, C correction in here. And then it works its way out, right? And so we have yet another example to just kind of show how it gets a little sloppy right in here as it's trying to like bull flag out up in these areas, which are all the things we kind of keep focusing on over here on how sloppy it can be in here. There's just various shapes and forms it can take after we do our ABC and then try to bust out of here. That here's how gold did it, right? You can kind of put gold right here next to Bitcoin and see that it ricochets off the C leg and then kind of does one of these and then busts out right in our example here on Bitcoin currently right now be kind of like this, right? Yeah, and in our other versions, right, we have all these various shapes, and that's just really where we're stuck at, waiting for that. We have all the appearances of that we've done everything necessary for an ABC correction after shooting our way back to the top, which we have in all of these in here. That's how price behavior happens, and to show that it's not just Bitcoin related that these things occur, but that it's just a standard behavior of a market when it's trying to go bust out and set new heights, like we have over here on gold, that it does the same thing, where we have the ABC off the heights and then all of that stuff in there that we're trying to get through for it to eventually break its way out. And that's just where we're stuck at right now. It's like this optimistic time. It's likely going to get very exciting in the future, but we have to kind of just get stuck here in this moment of working this stuff out for a likely trigger to be the thing to kick us out. And when it kicks out, it's probably going to be aggressive and catch everybody by surprise. There'll probably be a narrative to go along with it. There'll be something really exciting, but it's just kind of one of those things that it's actually a real breakout, right? And so all of us, of course, would love to see it just like kind of every day we see a little progress towards it, right? Most people like just emotionally would like to see something where it's like, okay, we're just kind of grinding at it. We're grinding at it. We're grinding at it. We're grinding at it, grinding, and then a break. So like every day you're kind of like reassured a little bit that it's coming closer and closer and closer, but it's just not usually how it goes. It's usually all over the place. And then finally, there just becomes an actual real breakout moment, right? That eventually just comes. And so we're stuck in that moment of waiting for there to just one day, right? Just one day, we're all just gonna be minding our own business. And then suddenly, boom, there's just this big breakout that ends up happening. And that's just kind of where we're stuck at right now, right? And my thoughts are that's going to be the time when we see XRP gets some momentum behind it, right, we'll start seeing this Bitcoin dominance start to actually go kerplunking at the same time when that happens. And I think it'll be kind of similar to all the stuff we saw back in 2021, where there's a lot of the retail crowd, a lot of the YOLO, a lot of the excitement, the market's roaring, having a good time, last week's to a couple of months. And then, that was the end of the old cycle for our last push in there. And I think this will be where the real excitement comes for the XRP price chart. I think we'll see confluence in two different things. I think we'll 4.236 extension, the current range, which puts you, like we keep talking about, that $8, $9, $10 level, which, looking over there at the market cap of XRP, right, that also gives us the confluence of reaching out to the 4.236 extension of the entire range that we've been in at the same time. And that it would be kind of our last push, our last hurrah. The confluence of it gets us right in there, that area of a little bit, maybe over $500 billion for XRP. That'd be like a catch up to Ethereum, which we've seen multiple times throughout the past. But that those types of things occur in these types of environments, right? And to reflect back on that, like I talked about in last week's, trying to kind of show where XRP tends to move. A lot of people want the narratives. They don't like it when I do that. There's a lot of people that don't like it when I show it that. Like, it's totally just correlated to what is happening within the market. But that's why we talk about these things and we do these things on the channel. And I bore you to death with gold charts and Russell 2000 charts, because these things tend to matter, and that's exactly when the price of XRP ends up moving. So, all the focus on Bitcoin, even though personally I just don't have like a massive amount of my portfolio in Bitcoin, I understand that these events all take place together. They all matter. The Russell matters, stocks matter, gold matters. And that all correlates back to this one chart in particular and how it actually ends up behaving. When all these other conditions get aligned and met, you get these things to happen. The peak of the market, which was a 702 retrace. And then this one, the peak of the market, which my speculation is going to land somewhere around that 4.236 extension here on the market cap. But till then, it's just a waiting game to see how it's going to get out of there, which looks like we have a little bit of price action even here this morning. So there you go. Back to the top of this range we are at 233 that we've been in since May. But otherwise, on Friday, we talked about, moving on to those next phases and what they would look like for Bitcoin and things we'll watch for with the dominances and the moves for XRP and all those goodies. This week, we are still just trying to fight this out and get this last kind of phase done in here before we can end up getting a breakout to happen for Bitcoin. But I thought it was interesting to show you at the same time how those things have worked even for assets like gold, after it does the exact same behavior. That this isn't like a voodoo magic guess on that an ABC would arrive in here and then we do this type of stuff. This would be just something we actually just see all the time. And that now it's just all this sloppy chop to get the bust out of here. And right, we sometimes call this, right, if it's a little bit more clean, sometimes this is actually the double tap bull flag breakout, violent back test. This is part of our double tap bull flag portion, right? But to kind of put it just into more context, rather than just having a long name that's been attributed to it, kind of showing you what it really is. So the waiting game still continues to start off this week. It's really just, for me, viewing it through the context of trying to get our way out of here, like this kind of stuff, with the bigger context of us being in this phase of the market, and that this is where the excitement of the market should be arriving. Now, we're just waiting for the Russell to break out and for the market to have some type of triggering event to take it with it. And once we have that, I do speculate things will happen rapidly, and that the squeezing pattern that we've had here in the dominance, like we've talked about, and the reason why I leave all these sloppy lines on here is just there are a lot of levels for this thing to just go cutting through it like butter. And I do think that will all come as we are in here. But the name of the game right now is to just try to break out. And when it happens, I don't think it's going to be like what people want, which is, here, we're just going to grind out and grind out and grind out. It'll be something, and then boom, out. And I just have a sneaking suspicion there would be a catalyst or a narrative to go along with it, because we don't really have one in the cryptocurrency market right now. But there has to be something that retail investors are going to latch onto as a surprising narrative to, create bubble top style behavior. So we'll keep our eyes on it throughout the week and see if we can get a development to happen in here. The price level XRP is currently at has a little bit of confluence for a significant area there at that like $2.34 as it does over there on the XRP BTC chart, that it's just been stuck right here in this resistance at 2166. So I think if it gets through that 234, it'll also get through there, but it'll likely be a lot of stuff happening all at once. And I just, been in this game long enough that like I just sniff it, I smell it. It feels like there has to be some type of narrative that comes here pretty soon, and that's going to be the thing that correlates with everything else going on in markets. So we'll see what ends up happening. Kind of like at the bottom of the sea leg, I'm talking about like expecting that there would be something fear driven, something that would happen. We talked about it the whole time that sell-off would be met with fear throughout retail investors because there was no type of euphoria that came back into the market. So as we got into the sea leg, there was a lot of fear. Then there became a fear narrative to go along with it, right? Typically, when we go into these types of phases and we go into breakouts, they come with positive narratives at the same time. So sneaking suspicion, obviously I have no inside knowledge to know what that could possibly be, if that's going to be macro or crypto, probably macro related, but we'll see. And we're just going to have to keep waiting as the week continues to progress. But either way, here we go. We're starting off a new week. It's still super optimistic of what's to come. We just got to get to that breakout moment for it to happen. So we'll check in on it throughout the week. And in the meantime, of course, you guys can check out the recent newsletter that was just published here last week over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Flirting with expansion, Bitcoin bounces, macro breakouts, and the sea leg reverses. And of course, there's a link down here in the description of this video to blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, guys, happy new week. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July holiday weekend. Hope you kept all your fingers and toes. We were safe. Everything went great. But otherwise, I'll check in with you in the next one. That's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.